We are pressed with a serious resource crisis, as the world is currently facing a shortage in copper, nickel, lithium, and other precious minerals and metals. As a result, the modern technical life we have all grown to love may as well become a dream of the past and perish. What's worse, you may not be able to watch my awesome videos anymore, and we just couldn't have that happening. With such a pressing issue, this past October, I entered the AI ATL 36-hour hackathon with a friend of mine. Our goal? Saving the world and hopefully winning a neat prize to go along with it. This is Andrew, a fellow student at Georgia Tech, entering the hackathon with me. The afternoon of the hackathon, Andrew and I sat down eating our lunch and thinking of what we should develop for the upcoming competition. There are only two criteria. One, we had to use AI since that was a requirement of the event. And two, I've been on a long streak of attempting to think of novel, revolutionary, world-changing ideas. And I wanted to take a step back and do something I, for the most part, enjoy. Developing games. Mixing these criteria with a previous project idea of mine, which I've been putting off for a while, we followed through with a rough draft of GreenScore. You're probably aware of the 3 R's from back in grade school, a hierarchy of waste prevention. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. Being a hierarchy, they're written in order of most importance, meaning for the most impact, you should focus on reducing, then reusing, then recycling. Sadly, capitalism isn't a big fan of reducing what we utilize, and the reusing of products are not very reliable for around the same reason. So, all we have left is recycling, but even that isn't very convenient, since there's a long pause taken to discover if an item that's been used is recyclable or not. Plus, there's no incentive for anyone to put forth the effort or brain power to do so. So what is GreenScore? GreenScore is a recycling game platform that tracks users' recycling habits by awarding points, also known as GreenScore, for scanning recyclable materials at AI-powered recycling bins. Recyclers are then placed on a leaderboard to display how they compare against other recyclers. This results in social pressure from a public leaderboard of your friends, co-workers, and classmates, etc. would ideally motivate people to consider recycling more often. This was the basic premise that we ran with, as I was well aware with the dangers of scope creep at this time. Going into the evening, we worked to bring this idea into fruition. To work efficiently, Andrew and I split the workload. While I worked on the AI model that recognizes the objects being recycled, Andrew would focus on the front end and back end of the leaderboard system. Our plan would be to meet up somewhere in the middle to link the two mini projects and finalize our submission. To start my side of the project, GreenScore's AI model is built from Python and its TensorFlow API, which just simplifies the process of building AI models. There was only one problem. I had close to zero experience working with AI models, besides cheating on my essays with my close scholar ChatGPT. So, after reading through a bit of TensorFlow documentation, a getting started guide, as well as going through a handful of resources from machine learning that I had saved from when I was initially planning on tackling the project, I set up Visual Studio Code to get to work. My goal was a classification-focused model that would utilize a convolutional neural network, which is an organization of layers that can filter an image down to its core features that the model finds indicative in determining the image's class. This model was constructed from a series of TensorFlow layers that served as the foundation for the CNN. I then trained it using a garbage classification database I found on Kaggle, a website featuring a variety of datasets. This data was pre-processed to look for only a handful of categories: glass, plastic, paper, metal, and garbage. So, the model could take in any image and return what category of material it was. If the result was confidently deemed glass, plastic, paper, or metal, then the model would state that the object presented was recyclable. The model also had a database of things that were considered garbage, and will not pass it as recyclable if it was confidently considered as such. With the main model complete, I moved onward to constructing a camera input system utilizing the OpenCV API. Following similar steps to learn just enough of this API, I programmed our system to receive frame-by-frame input from the camera to predict whether or not an item in front of the camera was recyclable or not. For some simple feedback, I started by flashing the camera green to display the material was successfully scanned. Wrapping things up, I enabled a base plate for scanning QR codes. This process would essentially perform an API call to the backend to select which user to award points to for recyclable material. Now, all that was left was for Andrew to complete his part so we could begin the integration of both projects. Honestly, the hardest problem was staying awake long enough to test iterations of the AI model after spending hours training it on my desktop. By the time I accomplished all of this, we were already well into the second day of the hackathon. Luckily, Andrew seemed to be closing in on the completion of his side of the project. There was just one issue. He couldn't seem to properly access one of his API calls. Since he was working in JavaScript, we took some time glancing over all his work to make sure no semicolons were missed, but after confirming everything was well, we were stumped. We spent hours testing and running his code, printing hundreds of values to figure out where the logical error could be, all for it to be one simple mix-up of values that he needed to pass through one of his functions. After that mess of a debugging session, we both went through the journey of hosting a database and a website for the first time, so we could get our product running for a proper test. We spent the rest of our time awake finishing our submission into the actual hackathon, which meant filling out a small dev post page showcasing everything we did, and recording a video of our product. By the end of it, we had approximately 4 hours to sleep before we had to showcase our project to judges at the hackathon. We slept peacefully, proud of the accomplishments thus far. 4 hours later, I woke up with around 10 minutes to get myself to a table for the judging of the hackathon. I called Andrew a handful of times on my way there, only to find out that he still wasn't awake. Arriving on the scene, I was fully ready to present by myself, but luckily the judging was held back for a while, so Andrew had ample time to arrive. We spent some time preparing our section of the table and setting up 2 laptops to display the AI model and the leaderboard. Before long, the first judge came by. We started with a basic description of the problem we wanted to solve, went into a brief overview of what our product was and how to utilize it, then we touched on how it was made and our plans going towards the future. GridScore is far from its complete idea, and it has areas to advance on a business and technical scale. Given the time, we intend to build the software into devices attaching to recycling bins to have in public areas where waste can be scanned and award points to users. We would partner with public institutions and services such as universities and waste management plants to bring these bins across the US. On the front end, we planned on having a leaderboard capable of being filtered for several customizable groups, so users and groups of users could end up competing with each other instead of a solely global leaderboard. Finally, for the business side of things, we plan to incentivize recycling beyond just adding the leaderboard. This could be as simple as a marketplace that enables individuals to cash out these points. We already know that recycling plants already award money to individuals who can bring in aluminum cans and other recyclable material, so the ultimate plan wouldn't be too far of a reach. For our AI model, we have massive room for improvement to help decrease Type 1 and Type 2 errors. We are looking into mixing different model types such as detection, segmentation, and classification to help analyze recyclable elements in a frame, identify multiple recyclable elements at once, and increase the accuracy of classifications of each object. Additionally, we can always train the model off of a stronger dataset to help in more niche cases. This was especially important after I figured out the dataset I trained the model off of initially happened to get their images from scraping Google search results, so it was a miracle it even worked in the first place. We gave our pitch to around 7 judges and received overwhelming amount of positive feedback and excitement around the idea, so we were pretty hyped going towards the closing ceremony later that day. From the multiple categories we qualified for, we were bound to get at least one prize. Come the ceremony, the winners of each category began to be announced. A couple minutes passed by, we were not called. We waited longer, nearly half the categories were called. We were not called. The ceremony was an hour in, and we were at the last category to announce, and we were not called. 36 hours of hard work, on our best idea to date, and practically nothing to show for it. It honestly sucked, but I know from previous hackathons that judging can never be trusted. Andrew and I would cope with our loss with that fact, and reward ourselves with a well-earned nap, knowing practically saved the world. You're probably aware of the 3 R's from back in grade school. A hierarchy of... How did I say it? Hierarchy. Here. I don't know how to say English, man.